when I was following the Grateful Dead in the late 70s and early 80s, there was a small group of people doing it. It wasn't until like the mid 80s that it started to really blow up, and there were, thousands of people doing it. When I was, quote unquote, on tour in 1980, I mean, there was maybe 100 people, 200 people that were going from city to city, show to show, that were really on tour and experiencing that. It was a small, unique thing, and people would drop in different parts of the country and go to small little runs and stuff like that, but it was a small family.
It was just an incredible scene. Like, you go to another concert and people are just getting out of the car and going in. There was a whole scene, Shakedown Street. Even if you weren't near Shakedown Street, everyone was just hanging out, friendly, in the same mindset, non-judgmental.
But there always seemed to be that one farmer who would let the gypsies stay on his land. And when the Dead and their followers came to Indiana this year, that farmer was Philip White.
If I can take my kids, you have a group of church people or something, and I can take my kids and I can walk through there and feel comfortable, that's fine.
Noblesville, Indiana, population about 18,000. Farmer White's generosity took some of the burden off of this small Indiana town, because when the Grateful Dead play at Deer Creek Music Center, the Deadheads descend upon Noblesville looking for a place to set up camp. And while Deadheads are some of the best people you'll ever meet when it comes to cleaning up after themselves, special arrangements still had to be made.
We do not have a campground. We should not open our park for camping to the Deadheads if we don't open it to every other group that wants to come in. When the central
Noblesville Councilman Doug McDonald has no special affection for the Grateful Dead, and he doesn't feel exceptions should be made for Deadheads.
The idea of it challenges, what you're supposed to do in American society. So, I mean, you don't really get ahead in American society by going to see, the Grateful Dead an extra 15, 20, 30, 40 times. So why do you do it? And I think that's not really the way that this society is geared. It's an experience that's unique enough that people who haven't experienced it should get a glimpse of it. But it's very tricky to do, and one of the reasons that a lot of people have been unable or just flat out haven't written and conveyed the experience of being at a Dead show is because it is really hard to describe and it's hard to put into words. There's a certain kind of joy and transcendence and being alive and being present in the moment and being swept away by something that comes with that music and that experience that is really singular. And so my best way to do it would be to maybe take somebody by the hand and lead them into, a concert if at all possible.
So I personally think that Robert Hunter, who wrote many of the Grateful Dead lyrics, and John Perry Barlow, who wrote a lot of the Grateful Dead lyrics, are two incredible wordsmiths. Hunter, in particular, he wrote songs that resonated deep into our souls about life and living and gambling and being on the road and traveling and connecting and the stars and the moon and the sky and the sun and people, and they connected with us, and they resonated with us, and you could sing along to them, and you could tap your feet, and you could dance to them. So the lyrics were super important. I think that I consider Robert Hunter right up there with Bob Dylan in terms of songwriters. There's
lyrics in every within every song. I think that you can point to and say, that could be my mantra,
From Brokedown Palace, I like Mama, Mama, many worlds I've come since I first left home. I think that envelops a lot of, from when I found the Grateful Dead until now, that experience opened so many doors for me in my life that would have never been open before. And that I think that lyric clicks with that.
I put under my senior picture in high school, "Let there be songs to fill the air," from Ripple. And so that to me has always really been burned into my mind as a Grateful Dead lyric that really got me and that I felt was simply stated but that conveyed volumes. And particularly you go back to that image again of being at a concert and it being summer and having that freedom and connecting to other people, and then you throw in a lyric like "Let there be songs to fill the air," and it just sort of like blows the roof off of the whole thing.
You know, I learned a lot from going to see the Grateful Dead. I learned a lot how to be a good person and treat people well, and mean people suck. Be kind, be nice, and you'll have a great life. And you don't have to be seeing the Grateful Dead to have a great life and to have great experiences. You know, you can connect with people. That's what I say. Go out, meet people, talk to people. Because, you know, like everybody else, just like you, is, you know, scared to talk to that next person or approach that next person. You know, connecting with people, I think, is, you know, one of the most important things that you can do as a human being. Because I think that it keeps you young and keeps you informed and keeps you verbal and communicative. You know, it's always good to communicate with people. Don't be shy. Everybody's shy. Everybody's scared.
The Grateful Dead have gotten me through a lot of things, right? So when I go back to feeling down on myself or down about something, I can often listen to a song that's helped me get through some point, or I can listen to a concert and some song will speak to me. Most recently, it's been Saint of Circumstance, where the line goes, I don't know what I'm going for, but I'm going to go for it for sure. You know, and that really hit home with me. But they hit me through a lot. You know, I studied to the Dead. I'm a PhD student, so it's what I do, man. I spend most of my time working in a lab or I study. And I study to the Dead. I take all of my exams while listening to the Dead. And I typically work in the lab and listen to the Dead. I honestly, man, I think that it's given me a more positive disposition.
Once you've had positive experiences, if you can figure out how to hold on to those feelings, you can, and it takes a lot of work, but you can try and carry those over into other aspects of your life.
A bigger picture that we're trying to construct here, we're trying to paint here, that this entity, this living entity, is going to outlive us by a fair bit.
Yeah, Jerry is the most alive dead person that's ever lived and died. I mean, they are keeping him alive. They keep him alive. He is just behind the veil. So he's a settler. Yeah. And he set up camp. And then he left. But you can still go there. And I think that speaks to how incredible the music is. You can still visit. And it is now sort of a little bit of an oral history. It's a musical hand-me-down. And I think guys like Bob Weir they're expecting it to be that. And looking at me as someone they're sort of grooming. I mean, this is never going to be over for me as long as I live. You will always be part. I will always be part of it, and I will always continue doing it. This is a part of my life for the rest of my life.
Hopefully, my grandchildren will know the music. You know, it's like anything else. It's tradition, and you know, it's being able to pass it down, and you know, I believe that it would be timeless music. I could only hope. I believe it's timeless.
Dark Star Orchestra is kind of cool because they play, you know, they try to play the old shows, so they're keeping the music alive. That's what all of these bands are doing. It's just keeping the music alive, getting it out there for a younger generation. Phil's doing some really cool stuff, taking in a new band just about every time that he plays. You know, with Dead and Company, I mean, you got John Mayer, which brings in a whole other aspect, a whole other like younger generation. I think they do a really, really good job of keeping the spirit of the Grateful Dead alive.
But honestly, as long as I'm still alive, the songs are alive in me, and they've gotten me through a lot of tough times. And if those guys are going to get out there at 75 years old and still playing and playing well, I'm going to go listen to them. The Dead are it really defined a lot of my life, good and bad. They have been there through everything. Like everybody else's life, there's been ups and downs and everything, and I've been through a lot, good, bad. They've always been there. No matter what's going on in my life, I can always get out of the mood I'm in by listening to the Grateful Dead. That's like that's my happy place.
These songs, this music, has the power to last well beyond, you know, when these guys are alive in the band and when I'm alive, and, you know, I think it can last, but it needs to be conveyed, you know, it needs to be sort of handed one to the other. It's not the kind of thing where you can just give somebody sheet music and it's going to translate. The special equation, that special fairy dust on top of everything, is the people who believe in it, right? And it's just like, I think it was with Peter Pan, if you don't believe in fairies, they go away. If you don't believe in the magic of this stuff, then eventually it goes away. But a lot of people believe in it, so I think it'll stay.
Jerry Garcia was not a god. He was not a deity, and that's the last thing that he wanted to be. He was a guy who liked to play guitar and liked to play music, and the whole band was like that. But they felt it. They felt it coming from the audience. They felt it coming from us, and we felt it coming from them. And you put those two things together with some, loud rock and roll, and there's really no other way to say it, but that's when the magic would happen, and it, we believe in magic.